Hello. The damage done by somebody who gossips, the damage done by somebody who spreads malice, doesn't stop simply when they say sorry or when they're uh, found guilty of something or sent to prison or whatever. I'm thinking about Alex Belfield here, of course, and the damage that he has done to people. It continues. And they are going to have to live with that long after he has actually finished his sentence and emerged from prison. The same thing is true of people who do torture. My partner, for example, has to live with what happened to him long after the people who were accused of torturing him have finished their sentence, have paid their fine or whatever they were finally found guilty of doing, or whatever the punishment was that was given to them. The two things are separate. Justice is separate from recovery. Now, I thought, there's a fellow who I remember being told about a great deal when I was at a primary school, very Catholic. This fellow called Jean-Vianney, the curé d'art. He was a priest in France, born pretty well just before the French Revolution. And so, of course, he was very impressed by the anti-clericalism of the French Revolution and the need for people to run away into the local villages to get out of the towns because of the persecution of Catholic priests. He then subsequently became a priest after the re-establishment of the church under Napoleon Bonaparte, but almost immediately he was drafted into the army. He deserted. He avoided the draft. He hid in a barn until an amnesty in 1810. Of course, that makes him a very interesting figure for the present moment when Russians are busy avoiding the draft. John Paul II called him courageous and responsible. And when he was posted to the little town, the little village of Ars in France, he asked two people directions. And he then said to them, "You've shown me my parish, I shall show you the way to heaven." And he did little more than stay in his parish. He built a little orphanage just across the road from his church called La Providence, and he heard confessions at one point towards the end of his life. It was 75,000 confessions every year, and people were lining the street waiting to confess to him. There was a sense that he looked into their soul. And of course he was also plagued by evil spirits. He talks about the grappin, a monster who caused a great deal of noise and dragged him round his room. He pointed out to his sister, "He can't hurt you, he only attacks me because I bring poor souls to God." And here's a story which I think is relevant to the Alex Belfield story, to the harm done to people like Jeremy Vine and to others, and how difficult it is to repair the damage. There was a girl who went to Jean-Vianney, and she said that she'd been gossiping. And he said, "Well, I don't have time to hear your confession now. Could you go to the local, to the village next door, just down the road, and pick up a chicken for my lunch? And it will be waiting for you at the butcher's. And on the way back, can you pluck it so that it's ready for cooking?" And she thought that was quite strange, and she did exactly as she was instructed. The chicken was waiting, and she plucked it like a good country lass that she was, and she arrived back at the church with this well-plucked chicken, and the priest, the curé d'art, said, "Well, now, thank you very much for the chicken. Now go back along the road and pick up all the feathers." And she said, "I can't." And he said, in exactly the same way, you can't undo the damage that you have done by gossiping. Alex Belfield cannot undo the damage that he did by encouraging his followers to such viciousness. Viciousness, from the word vice, evil. So you cannot stir up a rabble and then not take responsibility for it. You cannot stir up a rabble and undo the damage in one day by saying sorry. The damage continues because you cannot collect the feathers. And people who have had experience of that damage live with it for years, if not for the rest of their life. Alex Belfield put people in fear of attack. That fear isn't going to go away just because he's in prison. That's the damage. That's why this was a significant situation. And that's why the prison sentence is so strident and so apt.